I give the floor to the Russian Federation in explanation of vote after the vote.
President, the Russian Federation voted against draft resolution A/C.1/79/L16, entitled The Hague Code of Conduct against Ballistic Missile Proliferation. We wish to immediately underscore that we have no questions at all to the Chilean sponsors of the draft. At the same time, unfortunately, we were forced to diverge from our traditional position regarding this document because of the destructive line of action taken at the code in The Hague by Ukraine and their Western sponsors. Alas, the central contact point of the code, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Austria, knowingly stepping outside its authority, published a biased and partial anti-Russian document without the consent of member states. It bears no relation to the purposes and goals of the Hague Code of Conduct. Our country, to the very last moment, tried to avoid publicizing this issue and tried to solve it within the framework of the code, trying to preserve the transparent nature and trust in this mechanism as a non-political technical forum. We asked the Austrian to rectify this infraction in this document. Similarly, we tried to preserve the constructive outlook at this platform by not being dragged into discussions on the Ukrainian topic. Nevertheless, our calls were completely ignored. The Austrian side took upon itself the role of a judge and made a final decision all by itself. This kind of action does not correspond with the spirit of cooperation, which should prevail at this kind of preventive non-proliferation mechanism. Russia does not intend to accept this high-handedness of Austria and the cynical ignoring of views of other states by them. We wish to underscore that the change of the Russian position on the draft resolution of the UNGA on the Hague Code of Conduct is only a first step. It will be followed by more decisive steps on our side within the framework of the code itself. Thank you very much.
I thank the Russian Federation. I now give the floor to Hungary on behalf of the European Union in explanation of vote after the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union member states to explain the reasons behind our vote in favor of the resolution, the Hague Code of Conduct against Ballistic Missile Proliferation. The following countries align themselves with the statement: North Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, Ukraine, the Republic of Moldova, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iceland, Norway, as well as Monaco. After over 2 decades of existence, the Hague Code of Conduct against Ballistic Missile Proliferation has become an important transparency and confidence-building measure and is all the more important to international security. It is the only multilateral instrument aiming at both preventing ballistic missile proliferation and increasing transparency about ballistic missiles and space launch vehicles of the subscribing states. This is why the European Union regrets the change of Russia's position on the Hague Code of Conduct resolution. A negative vote on this is detrimental to international peace, confidence building, and security building. We encourage Russia to use available communication channels through the intermediate central contact of the Hague Code of Conduct to address any relevant issue. Subscribing states should continue to preserve the integrity of the code and act according to its non-proliferation objectives. The European Union reaffirms its strong support for the code and will continue to actively promote its universalization full implementation, and efficient functioning. We continuously call on all UN member states that have not yet done so to subscribe to the code. We also encourage all UN member states to support and vote in favor of the next biennial resolution in support of the Hague Code of Conduct during the 81st session of the UN General Assembly in 2026. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank Hungary. I now give the floor to Austria in explanation of vote after the vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm taking the floor to explain Austria's vote on L16, the Hague Code of Conduct against Ballistic Missile Proliferation. The Hague Code of Conduct is a remarkable achievement in an area where multilateral norm making hasn't been possible yet, but where the code has filled an important void through transparency and confidence building measures. The role of the code keeps growing each year, as does its subscriber base, with now 145 subscribing states, profiting from pre-launch notifications ranging from submarine-launched ballistic missiles to the announcement of exponentially increasing space launches. We regret that one subscribing state has decided to vote against this year's resolution, and we hope that the subscribing state will use the usual channels inside the code to address any issues related to it, as is the usual and long-standing practice. Austria, as the code's secretariat, works in a purely technical approach. We merely verify the author of communications circulated, but we do not have a mandate to censor any communications. This is consistent with 20 years of clear and widely exercised practice inside the code, where we have never stood in the way of anyone exercising their right to upload positions or reactions. We stand ready to have discussions inside the code to help clarify matters further, and are confident that we can solve this matter inside the code. As Secretariat to the code, we have without exception always taken an impartial position, guided by the code's text, consensus decisions at meetings of subscribing states, and existing practice. We have always ensured that all sides to any contentious issues have the full and equal rights as foreseen by these guidelines. The same is the case for the Russian Federation and Ukraine. We are grateful to see that the continuous strong support by the UN General Assembly for the code today. Let me use this opportunity to encourage all remaining states to consider joining the code. Austria, as the Executive Secretariat, stands ready to help with any questions. I thank you.
I thank Austria. I give the floor to Argentina in explanation of vote after the vote.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, President. Argentina wishes to deliver an explanation of vote on Resolution L41, which we voted in favor of. The Argentine Republic considers that the 2030 Agenda is comprised of legally non-binding aspirations that each state, in the exercise of its sovereignty, has the right to interpret and pursue freely. Accordingly, the Republic of Argentina reserves its natural position in all those paragraphs referring to Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and its SDGs. This reserve also extends to all those paragraphs that run counter to the guiding principles of the protection of life, liberty and private property, and in those referring to gender. With regard to gender, the Republic of Argentina wishes to place on the record that, with regard to the word gender, our understanding is the same as the one held under international treaty law, in that the term gender makes reference to two sexes, male and female, in the context of society. The term gender shall not have any other meaning other than the foregoing, as per the Rome Statute, Article 7.3. Thank you.
The floor to the United States in explanation of vote before the vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States delivers this statement on behalf of Albania, Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Fiji, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Marshall Islands, Moldova, Montenegro, New Zealand, North Macedonia, Norway, Palau, Paraguay, Poland, Portugal, the Republic of Korea, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Turkey, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. We are compelled to take the floor in response to the Russian Federation's contempt for this body's work and urge delegates to vote once again to reject Russia's proposed amendments to the resolution on weapons of mass destruction in outer space. The Outer Space Treaty forms the foundation of international law in the outer space domain and remains key to future progress on preventing an arms race in outer space. It is in all states' interest to ensure that outer space remains a domain free of nuclear weapons and other kinds of weapons of mass destruction. The resolution before us represents an earnest opportunity to reinforce this goal and to take steps to further enhance the spirit of the Outer Space Treaty. As drafted, the resolution transmitted from the First Committee both affirms the obligations of states party to the Outer Space Treaty and contributes to efforts to enhance international peace and security. The United States, along with Argentina and Japan, were pleased to work with member states during months of transparent and inclusive consultations. Throughout First Committee deliberations, the co-sponsors endeavored to incorporate these perspectives in significant revisions to the draft. These revisions even incorporated the spirit of the amendments we received from Russia, despite the lack of engagement by that country during consultations. Despite these efforts, Russia continued to present amendments that would have materially altered the scope and undermined the purpose of this resolution. The outcome was unequivocal. Member states rejected Russia's amendments, and 160 member states expressed resounding support for the resolution. The resolution, as adopted by the First Committee, is before us for General Assembly consideration. Now, the Russian delegation offers another round of amendments that are identical to those that were rejected by member states in the First Committee. We once again encourage delegations to vote against these amendments. The substance of these amendments is unsound, and the process is untenable given the First Committee's rejection of them. Russia's tactics this year, namely to insist on repeated, identical, inflexible amendments without direct consultation and in a spirit of attempting to materially alter the core purpose of the resolution, runs counter to the historical practice in this body. This constitutes bad practice and a dangerous precedent. All sponsors of all resolutions in the First Committee should be worried that if others emulate these tactics, they will considerably complicate and potentially impede all of our work. We thank the dozens of delegations who have indicated their support for the resolution as adopted by the First Committee, and we urge all delegations of the General Assembly to support this proposal unamended, as was the intent of the member states at First Committee. Thank you.